The first thing I remember is the siren. Not the one from a movie, but that ugly, staticky one they used to test tornado drills on Thursdays. Only this was a Monday, and nobody told us what we were supposed to do. I was in the kitchen microwaving leftover pizza, thinking about the power bill and how my boss still hadn't sent my paycheck. Then the street outside started to fill with those beige army trucks. Real ones, not camo like you see in movies, but tan, heavy, and ugly as hell. Guys in helmets, looking too young, blocking the intersection. I watched through the greasy window above the sink and waited for someone to explain why our little town needed soldiers with rifles and plastic shields. Nobody explained anything. A megaphone crackled. "Stay inside. All exits blocked for your safety. Remain in your homes." The pizza beeped behind me, but I just stared at the soldiers. "For your safety." That's what they kept repeating, like it meant something. Safety doesn't bleed, I thought. Safety doesn't scream. By noon, the only way out was a lie. They parked a Humvee in front of our driveway. I saw Mrs. Romero, the lady who brings cookies at Christmas, walk up to the soldiers, waving her arms. I heard her say, "My son's at daycare, let me through." They didn't move. She started crying and then screaming. She dropped her purse, and they didn't help her pick it up. I closed the blinds after that. Dad called, telling me to stay put. He sounded scared, but he tried to hide it with the same stupid dad jokes he always used when Mom was alive. "They'll probably give us free pizza for staying indoors, huh?" His voice cracked on pizza. He hung up before I could ask if he was okay. That's how martial law Monday started. No one knew why. No one knew when it would end. The first thing they took was the noise. Our cell phones lost service that night. Wi-Fi flickered and died by dawn. I watched the bars on my phone drop, and I felt like someone had unplugged the world. I still tried to call my best friend Jamie, just in case. Nothing. Only that dumb emergency message. "This number cannot be reached at this time." The silence made the house bigger, emptier. You could hear people moving on the street, but no one was talking anymore. Even the neighbor's dog stopped barking. Then came the drones. They flew low, whirring like giant insects, red lights blinking. If you went outside, they hovered and buzzed, following you back to your porch. Mr. Ellison tried to throw a rock at one. By the next morning, he was gone. His house was locked, lights on, car in the driveway. People whispered about containment, but nobody wanted to ask what that meant. I watched people vanish. One by one. The Hendersons across the street. Gone. The Miller kids, who used to chalk drawings on the sidewalk, gone. Just an empty tricycle left behind. I stayed inside and counted cans of beans in the pantry. I'm not a survivalist or anything, but I grew up in Oklahoma. Tornado kits, flashlights, batteries. I thought maybe if I followed the rules, things would go back to normal. The rules didn't make sense. Cover your windows. Stay off social media. Report any suspicious behavior. My mom used to say, when rules don't make sense, someone's hiding something. She said a lot of things I didn't listen to until after she was gone. A week passed, maybe more. Days got blurry. Sometimes you'd hear shouting outside, but you never saw who it was. Then one afternoon, I saw him. A guy in a hoodie, walking down the middle of our empty street like it was any other Tuesday. He looked normal until he started screaming. Not words, just a raw, animal sound that made my teeth hurt. I watched from behind the curtain as two men in black uniforms sprinted out of nowhere and tackled him. He kept screaming, kicking, until they jammed a needle in his neck. Then he went quiet. They dragged him away, shoes scraping the asphalt. Nobody helped. I just watched, too scared to move. After that, my friends and I stopped obeying. The government was supposed to help us, but all they did was shut us up and shut us in. Jamie made it to my place. She climbed in through the back window after dodging a drone. She was shaking and had a fat bruise on her arm. We decided to cover the windows, not because they told us to, but because we didn't want the drones or the men in black to see in. We tore up old sheets, duct-taped garbage bags over every crack. The living room turned into a cave. It felt safer that way. Jamie smashed the little camera on her laptop. I smashed mine too. "They're watching us," she said. I believed her. It was the first thing that made sense. She showed me how to make a weapon out of a kitchen knife and a broomstick. We watched YouTube videos before the power died, survival stuff, fighting, what to do if someone tries to break in. She said, "Don't trust anyone who smiles too much." I laughed, but she didn't. She checked the locks 3 times before we slept, if you could call it sleep. Every sound made us flinch. Every night the house felt smaller. They said to trust the rules, but the rules kept changing. Block the doors, barricade the windows, don't answer if someone knocks. It felt like a test nobody could pass. Some nights I stared at the ceiling and wondered how long before we'd be dragged away like that guy in the hoodie, just for making the wrong noise. And that was before the real monsters came. The first night I heard them, I thought it was just the wind. The house creaked all the time, and since we'd covered the windows, you couldn't see anything outside. Jamie sat by the front door, clutching the makeshift spear, whispering about her brother, who hadn't answered his phone since all this started. I tried to tell her he was probably just somewhere safe, but I think we both knew that was a lie. We left the TV on for noise even though it was just static now. It made us feel less alone. Then the sound got louder, not the wind. Something scraping, slow and careful, at the back door. I held my breath. Jamie stood up, mouthing, "Don't move." I heard the scratching turn into banging, dull and angry, like fists pounding wood. It was after midnight. I checked my phone out of habit, even though I knew it was dead. A neighbor's security light flickered through the crack above our window sheet, showing nothing but weird shadows. Something broke. It sounded like glass. I thought maybe it was the Miller house across the street, but then I heard it again, closer this time. Jamie grabbed my arm, and for a second, I thought she was going to cry. Instead, she dragged me behind the sofa, pushing me flat on the floor. The scraping, the pounding, it moved to the front porch. Heavy footsteps, slow, not like a burglar, more like someone who wasn't sure how their feet worked. We stayed silent. That's when I heard screaming. Not from us, not even from our house. Somewhere down the block, somebody was screaming for help, over and over, until the voice just stopped. No gunshots, no sirens, just silence after. Then a thud against our door, soft at first, then harder. I could hear nails scratching at the paint. Jamie gripped the spear so tight her knuckles turned white. We didn't move. We didn't breathe. The thing outside never spoke, never even tried the handle. Just scratched, sniffed, and shuffled away when the sun came up. Some houses were quieter than others. In the morning, the street looked the same, but I counted 3 more mailboxes tipped over, a garden hose stretched across the sidewalk, and a shoe I'd never seen before lying in the middle of the road. The world outside felt like a different planet. We moved fast, checking every window, every lock, looking for cracks in our barricades. We waited for night to fall, counting down the hours, eating cold beans and stale chips. We never turned the lights on. The sounds kept coming, always after midnight. Sometimes footsteps, sometimes soft tapping, sometimes nothing at all except for a feeling that made your skin crawl, like being watched through the walls. Some nights people screamed. Some nights it was just us, listening and waiting. Jamie said, "If they get in, we don't run. We go down fighting." I nodded, trying to act brave. I never told her I'd never punched anyone in my life. Then, one night, after the banging and scraping faded, we heard a voice. Human. Or at least it sounded human. Someone called my name, not yelling, just saying it, slow, over and over, like a question. "Evan? Evan, it's me!" I froze. Nobody except Jamie knew I was here. My stomach twisted. I peeked out the corner of a window, careful not to move the sheet. Nothing. The voice got closer, Evan, open up, please. Jamie shook her head. She mouthed, "Don't answer." But the voice sounded like my sister. I hadn't heard from her since the army locked everything down. I wanted to run to the door, rip it open, but I stopped. I asked, "What's Mom's favorite song?" The voice outside paused. Then quietly, it started singing. Wrong melody, wrong words, like someone who'd only ever read about us. It kept singing until the sun came up, then vanished. We realized then the real enemy wasn't the soldiers or the survivors. The enemy came at night and knocked like someone you loved. The next evening, Jamie insisted we couldn't stay. If they want us in these houses, it's not to keep us safe, it's to keep us fresh. She joked, but her hands shook when she packed the backpacks. We waited for dark, then snuck out the side window, moving low through the neighbor's yard. A drone flew overhead, but we hid under a broken trampoline until it passed. Every shadow looked hungry. I missed the old streetlights, missed hearing cars and sprinklers and stupid normal things. We cut through backyards until we reached the old storm drain at the end of Maple Avenue. It stank like dead leaves and rust. Jamie pried up the grate with a crowbar she'd found in the garage. I climbed down first, legs shaking. The tunnel was black and cold, echoing with water dripping somewhere far off. I could hear movement, rats or something else. We crawled for what felt like miles. Once, something scuttled over my foot and I almost screamed. Halfway through the tunnel, we heard voices again. They bounced off the walls, whispering things we couldn't understand. Not quite English, not quite. Right. Jamie grabbed my hand. We kept moving, breathing through our mouths, not looking back. Somewhere behind us, something started crawling after us, slow and wet and patient. We finally reached a rusted ladder, climbed up, and found ourselves in the ruins of the old subway. It was emptier than the streets above, but not empty. The walls were covered in old posters and new warnings. Block all entry points. Trust no one at night. We crept past shattered turnstiles and broken vending machines. Somewhere in the darkness, we heard a baby crying, but we never saw anyone. We set up camp in a maintenance closet, locking the door with a metal rod Jamie wedged through the handle. We ate crackers in the dark, too tired to talk. I dreamt of my sister, alive, smiling, calling me to come home. When I woke, Jamie was shaking me, her eyes wild. "Do you remember what street your sister lived on?" she whispered. "Yeah, why?" She looked away. "You told me last week she died in a car crash, but you keep saying she's alive." I tried to argue, but my memories got fuzzy. I could picture her funeral, the closed casket, but also her voice outside the door. It didn't make sense. That's when I started to realize my own memories were starting to rot, just like everything else in this city. The monsters didn't just break in at night. They were already inside our heads, gnawing away at the truth, bite by bite. And by the time we figured that out, it was already too late. After the night in the maintenance closet, we never really slept again. My dreams started twisting up. Sometimes it was my sister calling me, sometimes my dad, sometimes people I didn't even know, all their faces wrong, too wide or melting like wax under a lamp. Every time I jolted awake, Jamie was already up, flashlight gripped in one fist, eyes ringed with exhaustion and something close to panic. We only spoke in whispers now, half scared of waking the things in the tunnels, half scared of what the silence might bring. Word spread, even down here, about a group trying to fight back. They called themselves the Last Ones, and every story about them sounded crazier than the last. People breaking out of containment camps, hijacking army food trucks, torching surveillance towers in the park. The city above us was burning, sometimes literally. We'd climb the subway stairs and see orange glow on the clouds, distant sirens, black smoke. Sometimes you'd see bodies, but more often you'd see nothing at all, just trashed streets, abandoned backpacks, shoes lying side by side as if their owners had been plucked out of existence. The turning point came when one of the last ones found us. His name was Deshaun, maybe 17, wearing a school football jersey smeared with blood. He didn't have a weapon, just a radio and a battered old walkie-talkie. He told us, "We're hitting the checkpoint on 8th tonight. If you want out, help us. If not, good luck." He handed us extra masks, the kind with metal mesh inside, said they blocked the voice. We didn't ask what that meant. We just put them on and followed. We moved in a tight knot through alleys and side doors, ducking drones and soldiers who barely looked human anymore behind all that plastic armor. The checkpoint was chaos. Fires burning in trash cans, shouting, smoke bombs rolling under parked cars. Deshaun led the charge, breaking open cages the army had set up to hold suspected infected. Most were just terrified, half-starved families who cried when we let them out. One kid, no older than 10, clung to my arm and wouldn't let go. He didn't even speak, just looked at me with eyes too old for his face. Someone yelled, "They're coming!" and everyone scattered. I don't remember dropping the mask, but I must have. Suddenly the air tasted thick and bitter. All around me, people started acting strange. Some fell down screaming. Others just stood and grinned like mannequins. Jamie grabbed my hand, dragging me behind a burning dumpster. I turned and saw a woman, her mouth too wide, her eyes all wrong, smiling at me, whispering my name in my sister's voice. Jamie shoved her away, yelling, "Don't listen! Don't look!" The woman's face flickered, shifting, then melted into the smoke. We made it back to the tunnels, but not all of us did. Deshaun was gone, the little kid too. Only 6 of us made it out that night. Jamie's face was streaked with soot, tears making lines down her cheeks, but she didn't say a word. Nobody did. By the next day, everyone in the city knew, if you heard the voice, it was already too late. People started burning their own houses, torching anything that might hold a memory, a photo, a recording of someone's laugh. "If it can copy a voice, it can copy anything," Jamie whispered. "Don't let it remember you." That night, we snuck onto the rooftop of an old apartment building, rigging up Deshaun's walkie-talkie to a busted satellite dish. Someone started broadcasting. Real voices this time, hoarse and terrified, begging anyone out there to listen. We told them the truth. The infection was in the mind, in the memories, not just in blood or bites. The world had to know before it was their turn. The broadcast barely lasted 10 minutes before the soldiers tracked us down. They stormed the building, guns blazing, dogs barking. I saw Jamie get hit. A spray of blood, a sound like someone dropping a watermelon on concrete. I don't know how I got away. Maybe the monsters let me go. Maybe I wasn't worth the trouble. I crawled out a broken window, up a fire escape, onto the roof. From there, I could see half the city on fire, smoke curling into the purple morning sky. The sirens were still going, but now they sounded tired, desperate, like they knew it was over. Survivors moved below me, dozens, maybe hundreds, sticking together in packs, faces grim, eyes hollow but still alive. Some waved at me, silent. I knew I'd never see my family again. I knew Jamie was gone. But I knew the truth was out there now, somewhere, maybe heard by someone far enough away to do something. As the sun came up over the ruined skyline, I told myself, this city isn't dead, not yet. It's different. We're all different now, hardened, scarred, but not broken. I pulled the last battery from my bag, snapped it into the radio, and spoke, just once, to anyone still listening. Block all entry points. Trust no voice. Remember who you are. Then I watched the dawn, waiting for whatever would come next.